Guys, and please confirm to me. All of you are getting my voice on the screen. Those are attending in online. Guys, all of you are getting my voice on the screen. Those are attending in online. Okay. All right. Good morning, guys. And check it what we completed there in the last session. Just we understood the types of applications in the last session. Now, you only tell me overall how many types of applications we are able to prepare by using Java programming language. Two types of applications here we are able to prepare. What are the two types of applications here we are able to prepare there? First one is standalone applications and second one is what? Enterprise applications or distributed applications. Again, standalone applications are divided into two types. The first one is CUI applications and second one is what? GUI applications. Okay. Then already given differences between CUI and GUI. Again, these distributed applications are divided into two types. What are the two types of distributed applications now? Web applications and distributed applications are web-based distributed applications and remote-based distributed applications. These are overall types of applications what we are having. There I have already discussed about what is standalone application. If we design and execute any application without using client server architecture, without distributing application logic over multiple machines, then that application is standalone application. What is the difference between CUI and GUI applications now? CUI application is a standalone application. It will be designed in such a way that to take input data from the users through the command prompt and to provide output data to the users through the same command prompt, where command prompt is acting as an user interface and it is supporting characters data. Now, what is this GUI application? GUI application is a standalone application. It will be designed in such a way that to take input data from the users through the collection of graphic components and to provide output data to the users through the same collection of graphic components, where the collection of graphic components is acting as an user interface and it is supporting graphics data. Next one is I started with enterprise applications. What exactly the meaning of enterprise application? Distributed application or enterprise application, both are same. If we design and execute any application, on the basis of client server architecture or by distributing application logic over multiple machines, then that application is called as distributed application or enterprise application. Two types of distributed applications are existed. What are the two types of distributed applications now? The first one is like web-based distributed applications. Second one is remote-based distributed applications. Okay, web-based distributed applications and remote-based distributed applications. Here we have an important interview question. What is that question here? What are the differences between web application and distributed application? Here my meaning is what exactly the differences between web-based distributed application and remote-based distributed application. There are given number of differences clearly. If you observe some of the differences actually, what are the differences there? First one is what is this web-based distributed application? What we understood. In web-based distributed applications or in web applications, the complete application logic will be distributed at server machine only. The total application logic is available at server machine only. But in the case of remote-based distributed applications or simply distributed applications, application logic will be distributed over local machine and a remote machine. In web applications, the total Java code we have to provide it server machine only. The complete Java code we have to provide it server machine only in the case of web applications. But in the case of remote applications, in the case of distributed application, Java code we have to provide at both local machine and a remote machine. Okay, good. Then after that, after completion of this, in the case of web applications, client is browser, client is fixed, that is browser. But in the case of distributed applications, client is not fixed, client is variable. It may be a normal Java program with main method, or it may be an applet, or it may be a servlet, or it may be a JSP base, or it may be a framework application like a struts application, or maybe JSF application, or maybe a Spring application. It may be anything, Java related part, anything we can use. All right, sir. Then after that, to prepare web applications, we will use a set of technologies called as web technologies. What are these web technologies actually? CGI, servlets, JSPs, PHP, Perl, and so on and so on. All these like web technologies are available. To prepare distributed applications, we are going to use a set of distributed technologies. What are these distributed technologies to prepare distributed applications now? You can understand like networking programming, that means socket programming in core Java. RMI, remote method invocation. Next one is EJBs, enterprise Java beans. CORBA, common object request broker agent or architecture. Next one is web services. The name web services including web, don't think it is a web technology. It should be like what their distributed technology, purely distributed technology. Then after that, after completion of this, in general, web applications are executed by both web servers and application servers, whereas distributed applications are executed by only application servers, not by web servers. Next one is web application is a collection of web components which are executed by web containers like a servlet container or JSP container. Distributed application is a collection of distributed components like Java Bean components or EJB's components. No, to execute these distributed components, we need to use distributed containers like EJB containers. Then after that, the main purpose of web application is to generate dynamic response from server to the client. But the main responsibility of distributed applications is to establish communication between local machine and remote machine in order to consume all the remote services from remote machine. Then after that, after completion of these points here, then what else here we have discussed about this particular point now. I've given some information there. One equation I've given. Is it possible to prepare any enterprise application with only web application? No. Is it possible to prepare any enterprise application with only distributed applications? No. In general, we are going to prepare enterprise application by combining both web part and as well as like what they know distributed part. There are given one example also where to combine and how we are able to combine this web and distributed application, web and like what they are distributed applications in order to prepare any enterprise application there. Already I given some information for that. Right, so now these are the various differences and various content here we understood there clearly in the last session. Now today we are going to understand. Once again, I'm telling there what exactly my intention to discuss about all these concepts now to introduce frameworks only. What exactly the requirement to go for frameworks? What is the requirement to go for frameworks? Only to introduce that particular point only. I'm talking about all these fundamental concepts. One time only we are going to talk all these things. Next onwards we are going to understand directly like what now frameworks internal concepts only. Okay, now here I'm telling you clearly, try to observe now. Next point is like what I'm telling to you. To prepare enterprise applications, we understood there clearly. Without using client server architecture, if you prepare any application, then that is called as what now enterprise application. But apart from that, I want to know about enterprise application. Another definition. Any other definitions available for enterprise applications? No. Forget about distributed application terminology. Enterprise application, I'm telling there. What exactly the meaning of enterprise application? Observe carefully. I'm giving one simple definition. If we prepare any software application if you prepare any software application for an enterprise, in order to simplify its internal processing or its internal business processing, internal business processing, then that application is called as an enterprise application. That application is called as what? An enterprise application. Don't write anything, not required to write anything. Already given material to you, and that material maximum is available. If any new points are identified, I will give dictation part. But anyway, better to take a notebook and pen every day. If I find any new point which is not there in the material, definitely I will dictate that content now. Right? This definition already existed. No need to take any information here. Today's class is totally available. Don't worry for it, but try to put concentration now. Right. So what is an enterprise application actually? If you prepare any software application for an organization, for what purpose there? See, for example, we are preparing a software application for an organization. For what purpose there? Say, for example, ICICI Bank is available. I prepared one software application for ICICI Bank. For what purpose? What is the need of the software application? In ICICI Bank, number of operations are going on every day. All these operations are going on in general in a manual way, not automatic way, manual approach, and a physical work is going on. Understand my point? Say, for example, I want to create an account in ICICI Bank. I want to create an account in olden ways. In olden days, what is the process there? What is the process I have to do there? I have to go to the bank first. There, I will ask the clerk. I want to get an account with this ICICI Bank. What they will provide? They will give one application form to me. There I have to fill everything. Apart from that, I have to attach some proofs, some address proofs, or maybe something else I have to attach. Everything I have to do. Then after that, I have to give that paper bundle to the clerk. Clerk will say to me, come to the bank again after 1 week of time or 10 days of time. Meanwhile, they'll prepare an account. Then account book is available, a bind is available, a big bind is available. Their account book is the account number they will create manually. Then after that, account holder name, all the details they'll create. Finally, they will prepare a passbook, account passbook. After 1 week of time, if I go there, they will give that passbook to me. This is the work is going on. This is the work. What exactly in general the work is available inside the banks. But I want to simplify that process. How that simplification? No. One time I will prepare a program to generate a account number. Of course, to generate account number, they are having their own algorithms. The same algorithm I want to put in the form of a program. Okay. Then I will not ask the customer to come to the bank every time. You can create an account through online. Bank account you can create through online. The required infrastructure I will provide, required forms and everything, application forms and everything we are going to provide inside the software. So where customers are getting flexibility, where in the bank also might be manpower is not required, too much manpower is not required. For creating one single account previous days, no, in olden days, no, maybe 8 to 10 members are working for it. But now, if the software, if you prepare, no, even single person is also not required. Customer can open our bank website, where customer can go for that account creation process, where customer can attach the required documents, where our program will process that. Our program will check whether this person is eligible person or not to get an account in our bank. No, then everything will be checked as per the documents what we submitted, whatever the program we have written as per that. Finally, that application will create an account, and application will send that account details to the respective user. So manpower is reduced in the bank or not? All the operations are automated inside our software or not? Customers are getting flexibility or not? So because of this reason only we are preparing this particular software. It means that, what is the meaning of it now? We are preparing a software application for an enterprise in order to simplify their business processing. In the bank, creating account is a business rule, business process. That business process is simplified. That business processing is simplified. If I do that, if I prepare the software. So because of that reason, what I'm telling to you, here the point is like what I'm telling to you. So enterprise application is nothing but it is a software application. It will simplify the internal business processing of the organizations. So such type of software application is called as like what there, an enterprise application. This type of application is called as what there, an enterprise application. Guys, all of you are understanding this clearly? What exactly the meaning of an enterprise application? No? Enterprise application is a software application prepared for an organization in order to simplify their internal business processing. That's it. Not more than this. Leave this particular point here. How we are able to prepare these enterprise applications? To prepare these enterprise applications, what we have to do? Myself is a developer now. I want to prepare an enterprise application. Same for bank, I want to prepare an application. Then what I have to do? What is my participation in that preparing that software, preparing that enterprise application? What I have to do? Right. If you observe this clearly, the point is to prepare any enterprise application. To prepare any enterprise application, we have to provide the following three layers. The following three layers. These are the topmost layers I'm telling there. Not more internally, just a high-end topic only I'm talking. Now try to understand this clearly. To prepare any enterprise application, we have to use or we have to provide the following three layers. What are the three layers here we have to provide there? First one is presentation layer. First one is what? Presentation layer. In other words, we can say user interface layer. First one is what? Presentation layer or user interface layer that we have to provide. Next one, number two, business processing layer or simply business layer. Business processing layer or business layer. Number three, data storage and access layer. In other words, we can call it as persistence layer. Data storage and access layer or persistence layer. That's it. Only these three layers we have to provide if we want to prepare any enterprise application. Guys, which architecture we are using, that I will discuss with later on. Not mandatory for us, not required now. But at present, we have to understand to prepare any enterprise application, what we have to do as a developer. Being the developer, what I have to do? In the sense, we have to provide three layers, three types of implementations we have to provide. First one is like what there? Presentation layer or user interface layer. Next one is a business processing layer or simply business layer. Next one is data storage and access layer or persistence layer or simply data layer. Is also be terminology we can understand. Got it or not? Okay. Now let us see one diagram here. Everybody understand this diagram? No? So we need this much of content. Without this, we are unable to understand the total concept what I'm trying to discuss there. So we need to understand it. Now here, this is my enterprise application where three layers are existed. This is like what? User interface layer. This is business layer, and this is a persistence layer or data layer. This is an enterprise application. Okay. All right, sir. Now here, I want to provide presentation layer. Short names one I want to use. Next one is business layer. Next one is persistence layer. Right, sir. Overall, three layers are provided. Okay, good. What exactly the purpose of each and every layer? What is the purpose of each and every layer? What we are going to do in this each and every layer, that we have to understand clearly. Okay. Right, guys. All of you observe carefully. Understand this now. For example, listen carefully. For example, I want to go for online courses registration at Durgasoft. Online courses registration at Durgasoft. Observe carefully. Now here, this is Durgasoft website. Here, this is like what their database. Observe carefully. understand this model. This is one assumption only, but there we are able to get clarity what is user interface and what is business processing and what exactly like what there. This is a persistence layer. All the things here I'm trying to provide. Try to understand this clearly. Say for example, this is like what registration form, course registration form, .html or .jsp, whatever it may be, something I've used. Where what I'm trying to provide there, observe carefully what I'm trying to provide now. Here inside this student name, next one is student name, then student qualification, then after that student course, which course is required, then after that student email and student mobile. Okay, next one is after that course fee, definitely. The next one is like what there, then after this course fee, next one is credit card number. Through credit card or maybe debit card, whatever it may be, some registration process we want to complete. Observe carefully. Now name is existed here, qualification is also be okay, then course is also be okay, email ID is okay, mobile number, course fee, credit card number. There I'll take a button. Right, sir. Now here I'll take a button that will be like what now? Register button. This is button. Right, sir. This is like what I'm telling to you, button. This is my form, registration form. But whenever we want to come for this one, first of all, think of it already you are authenticated. Durgasoft.com. Whenever we are trying to open Durgasoft.com, login page will come. In that login page, already you enter the data, username and password, that's okay. Then after for course registration process, that course registration form here we have taken. Right, sir. Then after that, after completion of this particular one here, after getting this registration form, then what next one here? I can fill the data inside this registration form. I can click on this register button. When we click on this register button, automatically request will come to this application here. Of course, we can understand this is server or at server side we are going to prepare one application. This is server side application, or simply speaking server side application. Now inside this server side application, here I'm going to take one servlet. For the sake of this particular one, here I'm going to take like what there, one servlet I will take. What is the job of this servlet? Actually take the request from form from the user, process that request. What it able to process the request here now? Observe carefully. Servlet is able to prepare on data component like 2 to 3 components. It able to take data components. No. All right, sir. Here this is a component for interacting with the database, for storing the data, for retrieving the data. This is like a database, Oracle database. Now here I want to say this is like what there, what I am telling there. Say for example some DAO, data access object. Okay, there on I am going to write my coding part, maybe JDBC code or Hibernate, whatever it may be. Some logic here we are able to prepare. That logic will interact with the database, will perform database operations. Now here I am going to take some other component. This component I want to take like what there, service component here I want to take. Some service component here I want to take. What this service component here? we are able to do no, it able to do no, or else might be servlet here we have taken. Now here I want to take like what there some service component here I want to take service. Apart from the service, we are going to take data access object. Data access object here we are going to take. Okay. All right, sir. I'm asking one question to all of you guys and I try to answer for this clearly. I'll ask one question to you. Try to answer for it. My question is now. First of all, let me provide data here. Let me provide data. Name AAA, qualification, for example, MCA, and a course, say for example, Java, and email ID AAA@ something else. Mobile number, some mobile number here we have to provide. Then course fee, say for example, 10,000. Credit card number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something else we provided data. Next one is I'll click on register button. I'll click on what? Register button. When we click on register button, request will come to the servlet at server side application. What this servlet will do? No, this servlet is nothing but controller actually. What it able to do? No, it will interact with the service method where business logic is existed. Service method, business logic is existed. Now tell me, here we are performing some transaction on the basis of the credit card number or not? On the basis of the credit card number, we are trying to perform some transaction or not? Now you only tell me, is it possible for any application? Is it possible for Durgasoft to do credit card transactions in its own way? Is it possible for Durgasoft to perform credit card transactions? Is there any bank process at Durgasoft? Is there any special bank is available at Durgasoft? Durgasoft just it is a training center. Durgasoft doesn't have any banking service. Am I right or not? That banking services could be provided by some other people or not? That banking services must be provided by some other providers or not? That services are provided by some other people. That who are the some other people actually? You can understand. This is some other. This is like what the some other application. Some other application. This is like what their bank application. Bank application. So now here, what it is going to be happen here in this scenario? Whenever request is coming to the service, no, service layer will take that fee and credit card number, required details, bank required details. Then it will contact with this bank application or not? It will interact with this bank application or not? Then in the bank application, it will send the required information to the bank application or not? The total transaction related information is confirmed or not? The transaction is confirmed here. When the transaction and everything is confirmed here, now it will talk with like what their DAO. Now DAO will store the required information to the database. DAO will store the required information into the database. Then it able to give some acknowledgement from database to the respective DAO. Now DAO will submit the data back to the service layer, and service layer will submit back some data to the controller layer. That is control in the sense like what no servlet. Now finally servlet will give some response back to the respective client. There what would be the response here? We are going to provide there registration successful. Registration success. That value here we are able to display. Registration success. Okay. Now this is what exactly the application here I'm telling there. Okay. Now observe carefully. Here we are getting that registration success or registration failure. This total information we are getting again in the form of a separate file. In the form of a separate file. That might be like what no success.html page. You can observe this clearly. Now here what we are able to understand, this is like what there success.html. We are able to get our request to the success.html. in order to display that operation success. This is an enterprise application clearly. You can understand now. Now here, what I'm telling there, inside this enterprise application, which part is a user interface, that is presentation layer, which part is a business layer, and which part is a persistence layer or data storage and access layer. That we have to understand. At least we need to understand these points here. Right, sir. Now, if you observe this particular point here, answer for this particular question is whatever the path here we have taken, whatever the path here we have taken at the client, that means at right, this part, exactly this part is nothing but is called as like what there presentation. This part is exactly called as what now? Presentation. Now you can observe carefully in the server side application, servlet is acting as a controller. Servlet is acting as like what they know? Controller. Maybe in some situations we'll include that controller also. Exactly this part, even this remote application and local application and all, this there we are going to prepare like what there business layer. This is exactly like what their business layer. Now here, where the database operations are going on actually, in the form of like what their DAO, in the form of data access object, in the form of that all the database operations are going on. How to insert the data, how to update the data, how to delete the data, then all database operations are performed here. So here we can understand like what their persistence layer. Persistence layer is mainly for what their database operations. Persistence layer is mainly for what purpose they know? Database operations. Now observe carefully, this is like what their presentation layer. And here business is going on or not? Your business rules and regulations are applied. Say for example, I want to implement one logic. What is that logic there? If the student is already existing student of Durgasoft, then we are giving 25% off on our next upcoming course. Then where we have to implement that? First of all, we have to check whether student is existing student or not at Durgasoft. If he is not existing student, then as it is the same payment is going on. If the student is an existing student, 25% here we have to provide off. Say for example, course cost is 10,000. 2,500 rupees is like what they know is a off from the respective content. So where somewhere else I have to implement such logic or not? Where we are going to implement such type of logic there? No. Then inside the service layer we are going to provide such type of logic. Not only implementing such type of logic there, it has to perform some credit card transactions or not. Then where we have to perform these transactions and everything, inside the service layer, it will contact with some other application where it able to do some operation there. Acknowledgement will come here. Answer my point here. Say banking service here, the banking service is existed here. Banking application is existed here. So Durgasoft is not having its own banking support. Durgasoft is depending on like what their other banks know. So it has to communicate with other bank. Then it has to make that software, make that particular bank application to do some transaction. Then it has to make that bank application to return some status value to the respective service layer. Now service layer will maintain the status value and it able to access the respective DO model. Now DO model is able to interact with the database, it able to perform maximum the database operations clearly. That's it now. This is exactly the content of like what they're preparing enterprise application with the 3 layers. What are the 3 layers here? Now tell me. Presentation layer, business layer, and a persistence layer. Now here my question is, what is the purpose of each and every layer? What exactly the purpose of each and every layer? What we are able to understand from this particular layer? What is this presentation layer? First of all, what is the requirement of this presentation layer? I'll give some points to you. Try to understand, guys. What exactly the meaning of presentation layer? Observe carefully. Point number 1. Listen, all of you know. It is a topmost layer in enterprise application development. And moreover, it is an entry point for the customers. It is an entry point for the customers to enter into enterprise application. Say for example, Gmail application is existed. Now tell me guys, for everybody, what is the entry point for Gmail now? For example, I want to interact with Gmail. What is the entry point for me? Login page is an entry point or not? Okay. For you also, you want to open your Gmail. Then what is the first page we have to open there? Login page or not? Login page. If you are not having any account, then registration page. That's okay. So whatever it may be, login page or registration page or whatever it may be, but everything will come under presentation layer only. So now this presentation layer is acting as entry point for the customers to enter into the enterprise application or not. That's why I said this is like what there, an entry point for all the users to interact with the respective enterprise application. Point number one. Next one is to prepare presentation layer. We are going to use a separate logic. That logic will be like what now? Presentation logic. That logic would be like what there? Presentation logic. What are the logic we are using to prepare presentation layer? That logic would be like what now? Presentation logic. Right, sir. To prepare this presentation logic, we have to use some web technologies. Web technologies here we are going to use. What are the various web technologies here we are able to use there? You can understand like what? HTML, CSS, then what next one again now? JavaScript, for example, and so on and so on and so on. Like presentation layer. That means some web technologies here we have used there. Leave it. Then after that, after completion of this, after understanding this, it is an entry point is okay. Through this only customers can interact with this particular enterprise application. Before all these things, it able to improve look and feel to the application or not. This presentation part is improving look and feel or not. So for example, I want to open Facebook application. What I have to do immediately, if I want to open Facebook application, then what we have to do? Open the browser where we have to type facebook.com. Then immediately we are getting that Facebook first page or not, login page we are getting or not. Say for example, if this presentation part is not available in the Facebook application, if login form is not available in the Facebook application, where I have to provide username and password, and how I can authenticate myself there with our website? Now tell me. So if I want to perform my authentication, where definitely what I require now, login page is required or not? Whenever we are having login page, there only we can enter username and password effectively. There we can enter it, and there we can click on some button. Their automatic authentication is going to be completed. For example, if this login form is not available, where login button is not available, here we are not entering any data through this particular form. If you are not doing all these things, now think a minute about it. How much it is very difficult to interact with the Facebook application. So means that login page and its buttons and its text fields, everything is required or not? So because of that, is the point is what now? It will improve look and feel to the applications. Because of this presentation layer, it will improve look and feel to the application clearly. This is one point. Next, one more point here I'm telling you guys, observe carefully. Everybody understand this point, no? Say for example, previous example here I can take now. In the registration form, how many fields are available now? Tell me. In the registration form, Neil, how many fields are available there now? Yeah, 7 fields are exist or not? 7 or 8 or 9, whatever it may be. Nearly 8 fields are existed here. Okay, 7 or 8. 7 or 8 fields are existed. Okay. Now here I provided mobile number, credit card number, all the details, email ID we provided there. For example, I provided mobile number is like what there 1 2 3 4 5 6 up to 10. Is it a valid mobile number? If we provide the mobile number 1 2 3 4 5 up to like 10 now, is it a valid mobile number? Is it possible? No, it is not possible. It is an invalid mobile number. So before going to submit the data to the server side application, first we have to check whether that mobile number is right number or not. That mobile number is in well formed format or not. Leave it. Next one is what their credit card number is available. For all the credit cards, a standard number format is available or not? Number may be different, but format should be same or not. So again here we have to check whether this credit card number is a valid credit card number or not. We have to check it. Next one is email ID. For all the email IDs now, again there is a format or not? Separate format is exist or not? So definitely separate format is existed here. Again here we have to check whether this provided email ID is valid or invalid. So whatever the data here we provided, before using the data in our application, first we have to check whether the data is valid or not. First we have to check whether the data is valid or not. Guys, observe carefully. First we have to check whether the data is valid or not. Yes, we have to check whether the data is valid or not. The process of checking whether the data is valid or invalid before using the data in the application logic, that process is called as data validations. That process is called as what? Data validations. The process of checking whether the data is valid or not before using the data in the business logic. That process is called as what now? Data validations. There are two types of data validations actually. What are the two types of data validations now? Client side data validations. Another one is what there? Server side data validations. Client side data validations, and second one is what there? Server side data validations. Okay. What is this client side data validation and what is this server side data validation? Nothing, sir. After providing this data, whenever I click on this register button, just before submitting request to the server side application, at a browser itself, at browser, pick up the data, check whether the data is right or wrong. If the data is right, allow that request to the server side. If the data is not proper as per the request, no, then here itself we have to stop that request. Then here itself we are able to get some error message. No. Understand my point or not? So whenever we click on this register button after entering the data, just before submitting the request to the server side, then we have to check whether this data is right or wrong. If the data is right, then allow that request to the server side application. If the data is wrong, then request will not be submitted to the respective server side application. Now whenever data is wrong, then again same login, same registration page will be open, where that exact with error messages, that registration form will be open. Get my point or not? So this is like what their client side data validations. This is exactly like what now? Client side data validations. Similarly, we have to understand server side data validations. Now here no data validation is existed client browser. We disabled it. Then we enter the data, click on register button. Automatically request will come to the server side application or not? Request will come to the server side application. But in general, that form data will be stored in the form of a bean object. Java Bean object we are going to take where that form data will be stored. Assume it, some data is existed here. Form data is available at server side. Now here at server side, what we have to do, no? Before using this data inside the business logic, before using the data inside the business logic or DAO layer, before using the data, first we have to check whether this data is valid or not as per the business logic. Before using the data in the business logic, first we have to check whether this data is valid or invalid. That we have to check. Understand my point here now? So to check whether the data is valid or invalid, again we have to go for data validations at server side. There we have to go for data validations at the server side. Previously we are having data validations at which side now? Client side. Now we have to go for like what now? Data validations at the server side. To implement server side data validations, to perform server side data validations, there we have to use some Java code. To perform server side data validations, we are going to use some Java code directly. We can prepare some Java code. But to perform client side data validations, we are not going to use any Java code. There we are going to use JavaScript code in general. For the sake of client side data validations, which code here we are able to use there? JavaScript related functionalities here we are able to use to perform, to provide that might be to check whether data is valid or not at the client side now. Got my point or not? So to perform client side data validations, JavaScript is required. To perform server side data validations, Java is required. There the points can be understood clearly. So here my point is what? So here my point is what? What is my point here? Observe carefully. My point would be my point would be, just assume it, if I want to perform client-side data validations, I need to define some JavaScript functions or not. Where I have to keep these JavaScript functions now? Where I have to keep the JavaScript functions now? Inside these HTML, JSP pages are at server-side program now. Inside our HTML pages or JSP pages only, we are going to write JavaScript functions. That means that JavaScript functions we have to define. JavaScript functions we have to define at user interface layer or not. JavaScript functions or data validation related things must be provided inside this user interface layer or not. So because of that reason, the conclusion here, what I'm telling to you, what exactly the conclusion here I'm telling there, what is the main purpose of this presentation layer is to perform data validations, at a client side by using JavaScript functions. To perform data validations at a client side by using JavaScript functions. So for this particular reason, we have to use we have to use that user interface layer. So these are the reasons why we have to prepare user interface layer. Interviewer may ask a question to you. People may ask a question to you. To prepare an enterprise applications, what layers we have to provide? 3 layers here we have to provide. What are the 3 layers now? Presentation layer, business layer, persistence layer. Now tell me what we are going to understand about this presentation layer there. It is an entry point for all the customers to interact with our enterprise application. Next one is, to prepare this presentation layer, we need to use a separate logic. That logic will be presentation logic. To prepare this presentation logic, we have to use a set of technologies called as what they are, web technologies. Like what are these web technologies? Can understand UI technologies are web technologies. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and so on and so on and so on. Next one is, what is the main purpose of this presentation layer? To improve look and feel to the enterprise applications. Next one is, apart from that, right, what is another requirement of this presentation layer? To perform data validations at client side by using JavaScript functions. Again, we require what they know, presentation layer. Sir, all of you are getting it or not? Guys, no response. All of you are understanding these points or not? Again, I'm telling to you, this information is mandatory for us. This information is required for us. Without knowing all this content, we are not going to understand frameworks effectively. Again and again, I'm telling to you, I'm trying to discuss what exactly the purpose of the framework, what is the need to go for framework. That's my requirement. Because of that reason, I'm talking about all these things. Okay, leave this one. Presentation layer is okay. Then what about this business layer actually? What exactly the business layer now? What we are able to understand from this business layer here? First one is, it's the heart of the enterprise application. Business layer is what their heart of the enterprise application. Okay, inside this, what we will do there, we will define all business rules and regulations. All business rules and regulations. Inside this business layer, we will implement all business rules and regulations. Say for example, any example for this business rules and regulations now? Answer is very clear. Previously I said to you, if you are the old student of Durgasoft, you will get a 15% concession in the next upcoming course. That is one rule. Durgasoft is following this particular business rule. It's a part of the business logic only. That business rule here we have to maintain. So for that purpose, we have to write the code inside this particular business layer. That's my point here. Next one is, after that, we will define all business rules and regulations here. Next one is, to prepare this particular business layer, we are going to use a separate logic. That logic would be, what exactly the logic here we are going to use it? That logic would be business logic. To prepare this business logic, we are going to use a set of technologies. What are the various technologies here we are able to use there? Servlets. Okay, next one is what there? Java beans here we are going to use. Maybe in some situations we are going to write like what the action classes. In some other situation, like we are here to write like what now? Services, service classes, and so on and so on and so on. All the things here we are able to use. Of course, might be we are going to use effectively EJBs for implementing business logics. We are going to use what their EJBs mainly. Servlets also we can use in a simple applications, no, and so on. These many things here we have to do. This is exactly like what their business layer. Next one, after completion of this business layer, observe carefully. Next one is persistence layer. Persistence layer. What is the main intention of this persistence layer actually? What is the main purpose of persistence layer? The main purpose of persistence layer is to interacting with the database, and performing all the database operations. Interact with the database and performing all the database operations. So for example, I want to insert some data to the database. I want to retrieve some data from the database. I want to like what the delete some data from the database. All these database operations here we want to prepare. Right. So to prepare this particular database operations, here we are going to use a separate layer. That layer would be like what their persistence layer. All right, sir. To prepare this persistence layer, what logic here we are going to use there? No, persistence logic here we are going to use. What logic we are able to use there? Persistence logic here we are able to use. How we are able to prepare persistence logic there? By using what we are able to prepare this persistence logic. No, simply we can understand DAOs we are able to use. Next one is some util classes here we are able to use like a Hibernate util or JDBC util and so on. Now next one is like what the JDBC we are able to use. Next one is like what the Hibernate we are able to use, and so on and so on and so on. All the persistence logics here we are going to implement by using like what there these many technologies, these many things. No? Sir, all of you are getting my point or not? So this is what exactly the meaning of like what now? Three layered architecture of the enterprise applications. 3 layers of the enterprise applications we can understand. Okay, good. After completion of this, after understanding the 3 layers of enterprise, which class? Frameworks. All right, please. Right, sir. These are about like what there 3 layers of enterprise applications can be understood. That's okay, good, nice. Then after that, I have a requirement. If I take an enterprise application and if I want to prepare any enterprise application, what I have to prepare, that I understood clearly. Presentation layer I have to provide, business layer I have to provide, data storage and access layer, that is a persistence layer I have to provide, that I understand. That's okay, everything clear. But my another point is where I have to keep presentation layer, where I have to keep business layer, where I have to keep persistence layer, where we have to manage all this. We prepared these many layers now. Will you keep all these layers in a single computer? Will you distribute these layers over multiple computers? Watch what we are going to use, where we are going to keep all these things now. Right, there we are getting clarity. There to adjust all these enterprise architecture, to adjust this total layers, observe carefully, to adjust all the above layers, we have to use system architectures. Here we have to use to adjust all the above layers. We have to use what their system architectures. What are the system architectures here we are able to use there? The first one is like what there one tier architecture here we are able to use. Second one is 2-tier architecture. Right, sir. Third one is 3-tier architecture, and so on and so on and so on. N-tier architecture. Tiered architectures here we are going to understand. We are going to use tiered architectures to adjust all these enterprise application layers. Tiered architectures are available. What are these tiered architectures now? 1-tier architecture, 2-tier architecture, 3-tier architecture, and so on and so on and so on. N-tier architecture. So let's understand one or two architectures now. One or two architectures we are going to understand clearly. Then after that we'll move on to the next content here. Observe carefully. First, I want to go for one-tier architecture. If we use that one-tier architecture, what is going to be happen here? Only the idea is what there. The complete enterprise application has to be provided in a single mission. The complete enterprise application has to be provided in a single application. Means that presentation layer, business layer, and data storage and access layer, and everything must be provided in a single computer. Let's see. Let's observe this point here. So, for example, this is my computer. Then inside this ASTs, 3 layers are existed here in a single computer only. All the 3 layers are existed now. Presentation layer. Next one is like what there? Business logic, business layer. Then after that, data storage and access layer or persistence layer. All right, sir. Out of all these things, who is responsible to interact with the database now? Which layer is responsible to interact with the database now? Come on, you have to answer for my question there. Which layer is responsible to interact with the database now? Is that presentation layer or not? Presentation layer is interacting with the database directly? No. Presentation layer is not responsible for interacting with the database. Observe carefully. I already given one diagram there. Which layer is responsible to interact with the database, sir? Interacting with the database and performing all database operations. Who is doing that work there? Persistence logic. Here only database operations here we are going to perform. So here my point is like what there? Persistence layer will interact with will perform database operations. Persistence layer will interact with the database operations. Now here this is my single computer. There only I provided my complete application logic, presentation layer, business layer, and persistence layer, where persistence layer is also interacting with the database. Of course, the database is also existed within a single computer. Now tell me, total application is available on a single computer. So burden will be increased to the single machine or not? How much my single computer can accommodate the total application? Is it possible for the single computer to manage the total application? Our system resources may be limited. System resources may be limited, maybe in the form of RAM or in the form of ROM, or maybe some system processing, maybe limited number of resources are available in this computer. But if we provide the total application inside this particular one, where automatically burden will be increased to the single computer or not? Burden will be increased here. So not only that, all the layers are tightly coupled or not? All the layers are designed with a tight mode or not? Tightly coupled. If I do any modification on one layer, automatically it will give effect to all the layers now. Moreover, at a time, how many users can access this data? How many users can access this application at a time? Only one user or multiple users now? Only one user or multiple users now? One user, only one user, single user environment. Single one computer, one user at a time. Am I right or not? Only one user environment. So system resources are not shareable to multiple users. At a time, one user can access this application. So these are the various drawbacks with like what now? This is a one-tier architecture. To overcome this problem, only we have to go for like what now? Two-tier architecture. Moreover, before that, one-tier architecture is well suited for standalone applications. One-tier architecture is well suited for what? Their standalone applications, not for our enterprise application. For standalone applications only, one-tier architecture will be very much suitable. Guys, observe carefully what I'm telling you. So to overcome this particular problem there, we have to go for two-tier architecture. What exactly the two-tier architecture now? Guys, don't worry. Then everything is exists inside the material. Not only that, I'm giving this video support also. So we can take within 1 hour of our class there. Videos will come. We can check that videos and we can watch that videos if you want to get the total information there now. Don't worry for it. Now, the two-tier architecture here we are going to understand. The two-tier architecture is available in two ways. Two-tier architecture is available in two ways. What are the two ways of two-tier architecture there? First of all, we'll understand the basic two-tier architecture. Then after that, I will understand web applications two-tier architecture. Web applications related two-tier architecture is different. Normal two-tier architecture is different. That both we will understand there. Right, sir. In the case of two-tier architecture, we are going to use two missions. We are going to use two layers of missions. Two layers of missions. In the case of two-tier architecture here, what we are able to do now? Here, first of all, in the first tier, the general two-tier architecture I'm telling there. In the first layer here, what we are able to do there? This is like what the presentation layer. This is presentation layer. This is business layer. And this is data storage and access layer or persistence layer. This is normal two-tier architecture. In normal two-tier architecture in the tier 1, this is like what there, tier 1. And this is like what there, tier 2. In a tier 1 computers, in tier 1 machines, two layers are available. Presentation layer and business layer. Both will be available inside like what, no, tier 1. But data storage and access layer, persistence layer will be exist at tier 2. Now what's going to be happening here now? Whenever we execute this program, presentation layer will interact with the business layer. Business layer will interact with like what their persistence layer. Persistence layer will perform the required database operations. Then after that, it able to get some response from database. Now persistence layer has to give the total response back to the respective tier 1 machines. Now here, how many layers of computers here we are using, sir? How many layers of computers here we are using there? Two layers of computers we are using. What are the two layers of computers now? Tier 1 missions, tier 2 missions. Tier 2 missions almost are equal to database related operations. In a tier 1, we are going to provide presentation layer and business layer. This is regular two-tier architecture. But when we go for web applications two-tier architecture will be a bit different. That we required. This is not we required. This is not in use actual. The conceptually we provided this. But we are going to use web application related two-tier architecture that we are going to use maximum. So now let us see that web application related two-tier architecture. 1 minute. Right, sir. We will use web application related two-tier architecture here. We are going to understand. Right, sir. What is this web application related two-tier architecture? Where it is, how it is existed here? It's almost the same, but small changes are available. What changes are existed here? Observe carefully. This is like what I'm telling there. Web applications two-tier architecture. What exactly this? This is client tier 1. This is tier 1 missions. Next one is we are going to use tier 2 server side. Tier 2 missions. Server side. Now this is database. This is database. Observe carefully. In a tier 1, in the case of web application two-tier architecture, here what we are able to have there, presentation logic is existed in a tier 1. In a tier 2, two parts are existed here. What are the two parts here? Business layer, data storage and access layer. Business layer and persistence layer is existed here. Okay. Now what is going to be happen when we execute this application there? First, presentation part will interact with what their business layer. Now business layer will interact with what their persistence layer. Now persistence layer will interact with what their will interact with the database. Now database is able to perform the required operation. It able to give some acknowledgement back to persistence layer. Persistence layer will give some acknowledgement like to what they know business layer. Now business layer is able to give some response. Business layer is able to give some response. Now this is exactly web applications two-tier architecture. Now this web application two-tier architecture is almost the same as client server architecture. The web application two-tier architecture is also be called as what? Client server architecture. Nowadays, every time we are talking about client server architecture. What is this client server architecture? This is exactly client server architecture. So this is a client presentation logic, but this is server where business logic and data storage and access layer, it will interact with the database. Most of the people are neglecting this one. Everybody is thinking about like what now? This one. Here I'm telling there, if you are using applets, if you are preparing any distributed application by using applets, you know already in core Java applets, Windows, text fields, checkboxes, we are preparing applets by using applets. If we use that applets, no, this architecture we are going to use. But if we are using normal servlets and JSPs, no, there we are going to use what there? This second architecture here we are using. But differentiation is available anyway. Okay, leave this one. Next one is after that, after completion of this particular one, here what are the problems here now? Of course, if we take this web application related two-tier architecture, only presentation layer is separated, but still business layer and persistence layer both are in integrated fashion or not? Again, both are in a tightly coupled design or not? Again, both are in tightly coupled design. Moreover, database is not shareable to all the businesses. Database logic is not shareable. Am I right or not? Okay, fine. This is multi-user environment. This is a client actually. Multiple clients might be available, but one single server-side program can share. Single server can share its resources to all the number of clients. So shareability is available when compared with what now? One-tier architecture. Shareability is available. Reusability is also available when compared with what now? Tier 1, one-tier architecture. So two-tier architecture is somewhat better. Now one more point we have to understand. If you want to prepare any enterprise application, minimum we have to take two-tier architecture. If you want to prepare any enterprise application, minimum we have to take what now? Two-tier architecture. Otherwise, we are unable to prepare our application. Best example for two-tier architecture is what now? Client server architecture. Okay, to overcome the problems with the two-tier architecture, we are going to utilize like what we are going to use there now. There we have to go for three-tier architecture. There we have to use what now? Three-tier architecture. The name itself is giving clarity for us. What exactly three-tier architecture now? This is like what there client. This is a server-side application. This is database server, database application separately. Now here we are able to have database. This is like what there? Database. Right, so now this is like what there? Client. Now this is application server. Okay, now this is database server, or maybe some database side application there, separate machine here we are providing. Now here we are able to have like what there? Presentation layer, and this is like what I'm telling there. Here we are going to provide like what now? Business layer. Now here this is like what there? Persistence layer. All right, sir. Now here, when I submit request from presentation layer to application server, where business layer will be executed, Then that business layer will access like what there, right? Persistence layer. Persistence layer will perform database operations in the database. No. After that, some results are generated back. That results would be given back to the persistence layer to business layer. Business layer will give that logics to like what there presentation layer. That presentation layer can show that results to the users. This is going to be happen. Now tell me, this architecture is a suggestible architecture for enterprise applications or not? No tight coupling, everywhere loose coupled only. So presentation layer is separately available, business logic is separately available, and persistence logic is also separately available. It will interact with the database. No tight coupling. Okay. Next one is business logic. Application server can share these resources to all the clients. Database server will, database logic will share its resources to multiple number of business logics. So now perfectly shareability is coming or not? Shareability is provided effectively or not? Shareability is provided effectively. So because of that reason, this is the suggestible architecture for enterprise applications. This architecture is what their suggestible architecture for enterprise application. Right, sir. Okay, now any example for this architecture, sir? Any example? If we give any example, then we can understand clearly. Any example for this architecture? Nowadays, every distributed application is going on with this particular architecture only. Every distributed application is going on with this particular architecture only. There we can understand now clearly. Any application, any bank application we can take, the same scenario is going on. So for example, I want to go for Airtel. Airtel accounts are available. Airtel application I want to prepare. Now here user is available here. This is presentation logic, computer. Next one is Airtel application is available. Server side application is existed. But Airtel database is not maintained by Airtel people. Airtel database is maintained by, for example, Infosys. Understand it clearly. Airtel is having some huge amounts of data. They're unable to manage their database. They are given the database maintenance to some third party. Who is the third party? For example, Infosys. Example I'm telling you. So here what is going to be happen? User will execute this user interface. User interface will submit request to the application server to execute business logic. But this business logic is required account details, no? Airtel details, no? Airtel account details, no? So it will interact with the persistence logic that is maintained by some other database server. Then it will perform the database operation there. It able to get the data. The data will be given back to the application server, which is maintained by Airtel. That Airtel people are giving that information back to the user through this user interface. Understand my point clearly? Similarly, ICICI Bank is available. ICICI Bank database is not maintained by ICICI people. ICICI Bank database is maintained by, might be some IBM, for example. ICICI Bank details are maintained by IBM. So this is like what their user home. User can use this. This is like what their ICICI server side application. Now this is what they know IBM maintained database server. Now this database server is maintained by IBM. They are able to perform the database operations. Required details are given back to the application server where business logic is available. This application logic will submit some response back to the respective user through the user interface. Got or not? So this is a suitable right architecture for enterprise application. In this way only we have to prepare our applications. Guys, all of you get my point or not? But unfortunately, observe carefully. Right, sir. Yes, of course. Do we have persistence logic and database in the same mission and different mission? That depends on the how we are maintaining this one. Database logic or maybe database. See, in general, database servers we are going to use. The database servers might be maintained in the separate systems there. But I'm not going to take that. Just I'm thinking about only the logics. That logics are adjusted in a multiple systems. Answer my point. Database is a device. Separately, the database will be maintained separately. No. Don't think like that. At any way, we can provide this. Okay, fine. So these are about like what no system architectures. These are all like what no system architectures. Okay. Listen carefully, all of you guys. Up to know what we understood there. To prepare enterprise application, what layers we have to prepare? 3 layers we have to prepare. What 3 layers? No. Presentation layer, business layer, persistence layer. To keep these layers, to adjust these layers, we need to go for system architectures. What are the various system architectures there? No, one tier architecture, two tier architecture, three tier architecture, and so on and so on and so on, entire architecture. Up to that, it's okay, fine. Next one is after that to prepare web applications. I'm telling that, not distributed applications. Later I'll come for it. To prepare web applications, we are able to use models. We are able to use web application development models. Web application development models. What are the web application development models now? Model 1 architecture. Next one is model 2 architecture. Two architectures are available to prepare web applications. Again, I'm telling there, system architectures are how many computers we have to use to manage these enterprise application. Second one is what? How to prepare this enterprise application, 3 years. That's okay. Next one is to prepare web applications, we are able to have some models, development models. What are the two development models now? Model 1 architecture, and second one is what? The model 2 architecture. See, all these concepts I'm discussing intentionally. Again, I'm telling to you, my requirement is what? To introduce frameworks. What is the requirement of the frameworks? That's my question here. I need to ask that particular question. Because of that reason only, I'm talking about all these prerequisites. To develop these web applications, what we require here, no? Models we require. How many models are available here? No, two models are available. What are the two models here? First one is model 1 architecture, and second one is what there? Model 2 architecture. What is this model 1 architecture? And what is this model 2 architecture? That's it. Can I discuss this topic on tomorrow? Anyway, I need to, if I start this to know, I need to take minimum half an hour of time. Can I discuss this part here? Right. Don't worry. And tomorrow I will show how to share these documents to you. All these documents and diagrams I'll share with you. That's why I'm not giving any time to take this point here. But anyway, this content is available in our material. I'll share these documents to you, and tomorrow I will create the channel. Through that I will share the documents to you, right? Okay. Anyway, it may take some time here. And tomorrow I'll come to the remaining parts, and tomorrow at 11:30 we are going to complete it. And tomorrow class is very, very important. Why I'm telling very, very important? No, after completion of these two models, I will give a question. What is the requirement to go for frameworks? Why I'm discussing all these things, there we can understand what is the requirement to go for frameworks, why frameworks are required. These concepts we are going to understand tomorrow. So don't miss that class on tomorrow. Tomorrow everybody has to attend for this session. After that I will go for types of frameworks. Two different types of frameworks are available, where one type is a spring related framework. Why we need to go for spring related framework? Why not some other frameworks now? What are the differences between spring and other frameworks? These many concepts we are going to understand there. So without failure, try to attend for the next few classes now. Once if I complete the types of frameworks and everything, there I will start directly Spring framework. Spring framework and its modules. What are the various modules are available? Then after that, I will start core module of the Spring framework. So next up to this is what there is a prerequisite, some basic information only. Then tomorrow onwards, we are going to start the framework, the word related content we are going to understand. So don't miss the tomorrow's class there. Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks a lot. Tomorrow we'll meet. Guys, yeah, Spring security module also, Abhishek, sure. And where we can get recorded lectures, no? Guys, just one time reach out to our office there. And Bhavani is providing that all the recorded videos, then she will provide you, don't worry. Yeah, through Google Drive access, she will provide. No, Spring reactive programming as of no idea, Prasad. No. No. Then as of now, I'm not thinking about it. But whatever the syllabus here I've given there, after that I'm giving. And Spring Boot content, this is a Spring Boot content, and this is like what there, microservices. This content here we are providing. Okay. Maybe then if time is possible, I have to check. As of now, I'm not included in this particular part. Hmm. అట్లానే చేయమని. ఎస్, గుడ్ ఆఫ్టర్నూన్ ప్రమోద్. అట్లనే చేస్తుండే. నేను సింగిల్ దానిలో తీసుకుని చేశాను, అది పర్లేదు వస్తుంది. 4 లేయర్ 5 లేయర్ ఎంతైనా మల్టీ లేయర్. వెబ్ క్లయింట్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, నెక్స్ట్ క్లయింట్స్ లో వెబ్ క్లయింట్, సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ 4-tier architecture example, if you take it is an entire architecture, what I will do, I want to contact with Airtel customer care people, for example. Then what I will do, I'll take my mobile phone, where I will click on some number there, toll free number, click on it, automatically request will go to the Airtel customer care persons. Then when Airtel customer care persons are lifting my call there, then immediately they're asking to me, can you confirm your name? Already they had my details. They are checking my details. Whatever the details I'm telling there, they are checking my details. Okay, how they are getting the details now? Then the customer care representative is having a computer. That computer will interact with the application server. Application server will interact with the database server. Database server will interact with our actual database there. It will get the information by database server. Database server will give information to application server. Application server will give that information to the customer care person system. Now that person is checking our data whenever I am speaking. Finally, able to give some response from his system to my mobile. So here how many layers are available? Mobile is one layer. Next, web client. Web client in the sense customer care representative person, application server, database server. So how many devices are used there? 4 layers of devices are used. So this is 4-tier architecture. But the point is what? We can increase number of layers, number of devices also, number of systems also we can increase, but unnecessarily maintenance problems will come. If the requirement is there, then only we have to use these many layers. Otherwise, we are unable to use them. In general, 3-tier architecture is the best. Maximum, we are going to prepare the application with 3-tier architecture. More than that, depends on requirement only we have to go. If necessity is there, then only we'll go for it. Otherwise, we'll not go for it. Sure. చేయొచ్చండి, పర్సనలైజ్ బేసిస్ చేసుకోవాలి అప్పుడు. టైం పడదేమో. Right. And all video classes are providing, guys. Don't worry. Whatever the classes I'm taking now, videos will be provided for all classes. Okay. All classes videos promote. Don't worry. Complete framework, how much get salary starting now? It's not like this then, not depending on our technology. That is totally depending on how much experience we are putting, depending on the company where we are applying. On the base of that only you are able to get it. Yeah. Thank you, Pramod. Thank you. All classes are being recorded and every recorded session will be provided. Okay. Yes, Smita Yadav. Yeah, thank you. Hibernate is included in this course, guys. Don't worry. All frameworks in the sense, what content here we are going to understand there. Yeah, this is our Java frameworks part. Total frameworks in the sense Hibernate, Spring Boot, microservices, and web services. This content we are going to discuss in these slots. Right now here, I given already some points there. 11:30 to 1 Spring Boot microservices. After 1 month of time, I will start at 10 to 11:30. There I'm going to discuss Hibernate and web services. Okay. Right. Time but follow చెప్పండి.
తమ్ముడు యాక్చువల్గా మీ దగ్గరే పైనకి అల్టిమేట్ దగ్గర జాబ్ చేస్తాడు. దాన్ని కూడా అన్నాడు వచ్చి 5 months అయింది ఇంకా జాబ్ రాలేదు. ఈయన కొంచెం భయపడే. సో 1 month లో అదే 1 month లో నువ్వు జాబ్ గెట్ చేయగలిగితే ఉంటావు, లేకపోతే ఇంటర్వ్యూకి ఏమేమి ప్రిపేర్ అవ్వాలి సజెషన్
చెప్తాను. Right, and guys, and 1 month, after 1 month of time, 10 to 11:30 slot also I will take, where Hibernate and web services classes will start. First I will start Hibernate at 10 to 11:30 after 1 month, then next web service I'll start. Okay, Pramod, please check this. అంటే ఇక్కడ పాయింట్ ఏంటంటే, ప్రజెంట్ సిచ్యువేషన్, ప్రజెంట్ మార్కెట్కి వచ్చేసరికి మీరు ఎట్లయినా సరే కోర్ జావా రావాలి, అడ్వాన్స్ జావా 100% కాదు, ఐడియా అయితే ఉండాలి, కంపల్సరీ రావాలి. తర్వాత వచ్చేసి ఫ్రేమ్ వర్క్స్ మినిమం నేర్చుకుంటేనే మీకు కోర్ జావాలో వచ్చేసరికి మెయిన్లీ హూప్స్, నెక్స్ట్ వచ్చేసి స్ట్రింగ్ మ్యానిపులేషన్స్, స్ట్రింగ్ ఆపరేషన్, నెక్స్ట్ వచ్చేసి ఎక్సెప్షన్ హ్యాండ్లింగ్, మల్టీ థ్రెడింగ్, కలెక్షన్ ఫ్రేమ్ వర్క్, తర్వాత వచ్చేసి సీరియలైజేషన్, డీసీరియలైజేషన్, దాని తర్వాత వచ్చేసి ల్యాంబ్డాస్, జావా 8 ఫీచర్స్ మ్యాక్స్ నేను కోర్ జావా ఒకటే కదా, అది కోర్ జావా మీద మరి అంటే వాళ్ళ కంపెనీ వాళ్ళకి ఓన్లీ కోర్ జావా రిక్వైర్మెంట్, ఇట్స్ ఓకే, యూ కెన్ గో దేర్ అండ్ యూ కెన్ గో ఫర్ ఇట్. బట్ కంపెనీ వాళ్ళకి కోర్ జావా మీద రిక్వైర్మెంట్ ఉండేది సిచ్యువేషన్ తక్కువ. మినిమం ఇప్పుడు ప్రజెంట్ ఏ కంపెనీ తీసుకున్నా సరే దే ఆర్ ఎక్స్పెక్టింగ్ స్ప్రింగ్ బూట్ మైక్రో సర్వీసెస్. Every project nowadays is going on with the Spring Boot microservices. Yeah, maybe rarely 1 or 2 companies might be available. అంటే వాళ్ళ మీనింగ్ ఏంటంటే స్ప్రింగ్ అని ఇంక్లూడ్ చేసుకునే, స్ప్రింగ్ బూట్ అండ్ మైక్రో సర్వీస్ అంటే ఇంక్లూడింగ్ స్ప్రింగ్. వై? బికాస్ వితౌట్ నోయింగ్ స్ప్రింగ్ వీఆర్ unable to understand Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is simplifying Spring framework, that's it. So not possible to understand Spring Boot without Spring. Without knowing Spring Boot, not possible to understand microservices. That's the problem. Guys, anything else apart from this, and shall we meet on tomorrow? Any queries you can raise, then I will give answers there. Otherwise, then I'll meet on tomorrow. Tomorrow I will continue the remaining part. Okay. సో చూడండి, అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఒక్కటి ఇక్కడ మీరు 5 months అని టైం పెడుతున్నారు, కానీ ఇప్పుడు ఇవన్నీ ప్యారల్ గడిన అయితే మీకు మ్యాక్స్ ఒక ఎండ్కి వెళ్ళిపోతారు, ఫ్రేమ్ వర్క్స్ పాటికి వెళ్ళిపోతారు. ఇప్పుడు కోర్ జావా చూడాలి మరి, అంటే ఇక్కడ నుంచి 5 months అంటే డెడ్ ఈజీ అండి. మీ కోర్ అడ్వాన్స్డ్ మార్నింగ్ అయిపోతాయి, ప్లస్ ఇక్కడ ఫ్రేమ్ వర్క్స్ అయిపోతాయి. 1 month లోనా? ఇంపాసిబుల్ అండి. మీరు అట్లా ఆలోచన పెట్టుకుంటే జాయిన్ అయితే కూడా వేస్ట్ ఇదంతా కూడా. ఎందుకంటే ఇవి అసలు నేను కనీసం నాకు ఇంట్రడక్షన్సే కంప్లీట్ అవ్వు 1 month లో. ఎయిట్ బస్లో కాదండి, 1 month లో ఇంత అసలు హెవీ కాంటెంట్ ఇది, ఎయిట్ బస్లో కాదు. చెక్ చేసాం. ఓకే, ఉంటాయి, ప్రతిదాని ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఉంటుంది దానిలో, ప్రతి పార్టీకి ఉంటుంది. షూర్. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ guys, and I'll meet on tomorrow, and tomorrow at same 11:30 we'll start our content. Thank you guys, thanks a lot. Okay.